Welcome to CreateGrowProfit Coaching Stories. I'm Maurice from CreateGrowProfit.com, and today it's a special episode because I'm here with two expert guests. I'm here with Jenny Pitts and Haydn Griffiths, and we're talking about mindset. What does it take to create a better mindset, a better perspective on our life so we can take the actions that we want to take? Interestingly, Jenny and Hayden have both been on the podcast before, and they've heard each other's statements in some context. And this is why we're following up with the conversation here today. Jenny, thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And Hayden, you too, thank you for coming back and thank you for being here today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
So, the topic of mindset is huge. Jenny, what is it that you do in the realm of mindset with your clients?
So, I help people build, and I have a background in business consulting. So, I help them build their businesses mostly. Some people, they just need their careers revamped and sometimes life as well. So, I'm a spiritual business and life coach, and mindset is critical to everything that we do. It sort of flows from the mindset. So, we go in and establish identity and beliefs like very early on in our process. So we can make sure that we're building from health. That's really my background.
Thank you, Jenny. And Hayden, what is it that you do in the realm of mindset with your clients?
I have them become aware of the mindset they currently have. Like what Jenny said, it's causing everything in their life, their feelings, their actions, their results. As soon as they can see it and they're aware of it, they can own it and they can choose something else. So then we create a mindset that matches their future and their vision. Then everything just falls into place.
Jenny, Hayden, in your work with people that want to improve their mindset, where do people start out this process? Are they already that self-aware or not? Like, how does somebody come to the conclusion, I need help with my mindset, and actually I need to hire someone to create a better mindset?
I don't think there is a simple answer to that. I think it's an ongoing process. I discovered my mindset when I was 16. And I saw that it was directing my behaviors and my results at 16, but it took me another 15 years of ongoing work and realizations before it really hit me there. So I don't think there is like that. I don't think it's that simple. I think the answer to the question is it varies for everyone.
What sparked it for you that you became aware of your mindset at 16? That's very young.
Yeah, I think we spoke about it on our last podcast where my stepmother walked into the bathroom. When I was 16, I was in the shower and she was crying, tears coming down her face, and opened up the DVD case with used syringes. And she said to me, "You've always been a good boy." And I just thought to myself, what if she's right? What if I'm not this worthless piece of shit who'll never be loved? And that just changed the direction of my life, saved my life. I thought I was going to die, end up in jail. And that was like the first realization. Wow, this was all in my head. This isn't real. I had this totally skewed identity, as Jenny was saying, totally skewed. And that was the beginning. I had no idea there was this world out there of mindset and of these books and information and people who'd been through it. I had no idea of that at 16. That came later in life.
Wow, that's a crazy story. I've never heard that story. It wasn't on this podcast.
Oh, okay.
So you were like hating life in the shower?
No, I wasn't. I was just a 16-year-old having a shower, and then my stepmother just walked in, which I just thought, "What the hell are you doing in here?" You know. Then saw the tears and the DVD case and the used syringes. Like, oh, okay, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You're finding out that your son is shooting up drugs.
That's really intense, friend.
It was, and that it shook me. Yeah, had me stop and think about myself.
Because she cares about you.
Oh yeah, loves me. She's my mother. She raised me from 3. She told me. She told me later on in life. As soon as she saw me, met me, she decided, "That's it. You're my boy," and that was it. She raised me as if I was her own.
Wow.
Yeah, very lucky.
That's a blessing. That's huge. Yeah, I think we all have beliefs that are limiting, and we all have beliefs that will hinder us, and we can even like play it safe and never know that we are living less than what is intended for the fullness of life. So people come in and sometimes they don't know that they have limiting beliefs. They don't realize that, like, they don't believe that they can sell, or they don't believe that selling is a pure process, or they don't believe that they can get on stage and they need to be seen. And they view that as egotistical. But really, when we understand the reality of, like, every life is a gift, and every person um, is worthy of being heard and being seen, that they're not living in the shame of hiding. It's actually important to be seen. It's important that your company is out there. And it feels like a lot of risk sometimes for new entrepreneurs or new, whatever it is, the venture that you're doing, whatever you're building. It can feel very scary. So when you remove the elements of fear, the mindsets of fear and shame and less than, and it's really what, like Hayden said, in terms of, he got a radical shift because you got a experience with love. Like, it was like, I think love is sort of, I mean, it's like a fluffy thing in the business arena, and like we don't talk about it, but like ultimately it breaks fear and it breaks mindsets that are counterproductive to your fullness of life. So even though I don't come out swinging with a love bat, I know that when I'm with my clients, my entire goal is to love death out of them, like love their mindsets out of the trappings that are hindering them from the fullness of life ultimately. So, I mean, that's me spiritually giving that response answer for y'all, because I'm a spiritual mindset coach. But that's sort of, I think, what I do as a coach.
Is that an intuitive thing for you, Jenny, or how do you do that?
Yes and yeah. Well, it's definitely, some of it is giftings, because I can, like, I'm, what is it, an empath? Like, I can feel people when I'm talking to them. I can feel their nerves and I can feel their mindsets sometimes. And then sometimes I'm deep in prayer before, or a thought will just come to my mind, and I'll tell the client, like, "Hey, what about this?" And they'll be like, and you'll see them like light up from just that question that I thought, as I like put my makeup on before our call. You know, it's like, it doesn't look super spiritual, but it is like maybe the way I'm wired as a coach. And it just sort of like unfolds as freedom for somebody, for me. I mean, how do you approach it, Hayden? How do you, like, do you catch glimpses of like lies or things that people are believing that?
Yeah, 100%. That's what I'm listening for. Is there congruence in their words and how they're saying it? Do they believe what they're saying? Is it a reaction? You can listen for all that stuff. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so maybe it is just listening, but I like interpret it as feeling it. Like, I'm feeling your vibe, or I'm feeling, but it could just be even catching glimpses of their facial expressions, the minor facial expressions. That they don't really believe that they're going to succeed in this venture. Like, they don't really know that they have what it takes.
Yeah, I agree with that. With the feelings too, definitely.
Which part of the feelings exactly, Hayden?
Which part do I agree with?
Yeah, I didn't catch the feelings part. I was really hung up on the like listening skills. So are you guys saying you can listen to their feelings, to their emotions as they show up?
100%. Let's say to be an effective coach, that's a requirement, not a is it happening or is it possible? It's a requirement. You must be in touch with your whoever you're speaking to on an emotional or feelings level, as well as mental and spiritual and all that stuff. Definitely, you want to be right in their world. You don't coach from your own world. You got to get in their world to coach them. So you got to be in tune with everything that's going on with them. How else do you guide them if you have no idea where they are mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually, or where they want to go in those realms? So
Yeah, that's true. The really tricky thing I find about mindset and mindset coaching is that you both talked about limiting beliefs. It's like it's the fundamental limiting belief that either their mindset is okay or mindset isn't a thing, right? That fundamental limiting belief stops somebody from even working on their mindset.
can do, yeah.
I feel like a lot of the people that are willing to go into the mindset arena are higher level executives and leaders, because they have already gotten to the place of like overcoming so many obstacles just to be in leadership roles. And so once you're in leadership roles, you have another group of responsibilities that require a different mindset, actually. Require, like, you're no longer a manager, you're like now a leader. And I mean, I know there's like this, I don't know why this is coming to mind, but like there's like different layers of investments, like you just make money and then you manage money and then you invest it, and like you're like constantly growing. So there's like this path of growth that everybody is on. And usually, like people that are leaders, I even think it's almost everybody that does coaching is a leader, because there's more and you're limited. So you're like, I need a coach to go to the next place, or I need a coach to hit this destination. So yeah, I think that that's a thing for sure.
And in your mindset coaching, how close do you feel you are to therapy?
They all overlap. There's things in every practice that work. And so therapy, psychology, coaching, we're in the realm of altering people's minds using communication as the tool. They overlap heavily. They have different principles and values that they function out of. What I've found with therapy, there's a lot of they're very much constricted because of all the rules and regulations. For one, coaching is more open. Therapy is functioning out of this large dogma that's very hard to move because it's so big. You imagine like trying to get Coca-Cola to change directions is going to be difficult because it's so large. There's so many rules, so many processes and systems. Whereas coaching is young, it's a new industry, it's free to move and trial new things and see what actually works. We're very much future focused in coaching. We deal with the past where needed, whereas therapy is very much past focused. As a coach, we have more freedom to tell people exactly what we think. We can be a little more direct and bold and confronting, call people out on their bull. Where therapy, because all those rules and regulations, there's so many restrictions, they can't do that. They can get in so much trouble. Where I feel as a coach, we have freedom. We really do, to be ourselves, to be unique, to trial new things, see what works. Yeah. So yes, we overlap, and yes, we're different at the same time. There's a therapeutic experience to coaching, though it's not therapy. Therapy usually functions out of the mindset that there's something wrong with you, you need to be fixed. Whereas coaching functions out of you're perfectly okay, you've got everything you need, you're going to perform at a high level, you've got this, you can do whatever you set your mind to. So they're just slightly different, though functioning in a similar realm.
What's very interesting, Hayden, is that there's a lot of efforts in the coaching industry to regulate it more.
No, please stay away. Stay away.
And what you've just said is, I never even considered that, but you're so right. The fact that it's so open allows coaches to do more or be more flexible or work outside the box, which, from a business experience as well, which is often necessary. If you don't break out of the box, you don't create innovation, you don't create an advantage, right? So that is a very interesting perspective. Thanks for sharing that, Hayden. What are your thoughts on that, Jenny?
Well, it's funny because I completely agree with Hayden. And I think when I first started coaching, it was like, what is the difference? I had to like ask that question, because I'm such an empath, and I feel for people, and was like, well, I'm going into coaching. Well, coaches of teams, they're like, get it together. It's like, oh, should I like, and when that's your personality, like my personality is coaching, and I did like the strengths finder with a different coach, and she's like, you're a coach, and you're not. And I remember her saying, you're not good at therapy because you don't want to sit with people in the muck. Like, you're like, we're getting out of the muck, and we're going somewhere. Get out of the muck, you know? And I like, and being a coach has been fascinating because, like, when people have weird mindsets around charging or prices, I'm I've like, I don't yell at people, but I'm definitely like, you will not give your services away for free. Like, we are not devaluing ourselves. Like, so I love that about coaching. What I think is fascinating about the mindset space is that some of the stuff is tied to the past. Because once you're into the mindset things, I have a couple different clients that came to mind before coming on this call, and I thought, how am I going to talk about some of the stuff we deal with them? Because I couldn't figure out for a second. We didn't talk about the past. I'm all about the future. Like, let's go, let's go, let's go. But they were struggling from things that happened in their past. I mean, I recently got a text from one of them that wasn't supposed to go to me, and it was about some abuses. And I was like, oh, that's why we have all these beliefs. And that's why we can't break free. And when I saw her text, I was like, oh, she's just like this other person. So, like, I linked the two together and I was like, oh, okay. There has to be a space that's safe for people to really be vulnerable with you. And especially with mindset stuff, depending on the person, I think that, I mean, I haven't ever done past work with people, but I sort of can see that potentially coming. I have some friends that do that type of work. It's like, I'm gonna outsource you. I'll outsource you to some people that work with that. No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know about, because I like, even the word therapy, I look at therapy as like licking someone's wounds or petting somebody. I'm not petting you. And I don't even want to lick your wounds. But if we're talking about a memory or a thing that's like really like blocking you, that is a layer of coaching I have not stepped into, but may step into it.
Do it. It's all, yeah, it'll open up the future.
Yeah. So, well, I've been thinking like I would do it, but I haven't had that opportunity yet. Well, maybe I have. I don't know. I do spiritual stuff, like I strongly believe in like speaking truth over people. So when they believe a lie, and like, you just like, no, you're actually a conqueror, you're actually a leader, you're actually somebody that manages your finances well. You need those tools, but it's not that you can't do it. So like, when you speak over them, that can bring life.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah, for sure.
Is that like affirmations?
Kind of, but from somebody else.
What do you guys think about affirmations and positive thinking? I've heard a lot of comments about, positive thinking where, some people swear on it and others say it's like, it's kind of a new age trap. What are your experience, in your coaching practice, um, Hayden and then Jenny, with this approach, with affirmations and positive thinking?
Oh, 100%. I'm all behind it. I'm absolutely behind it. And my testimony is like, when I got diagnosed with MS at 21, I learned the power of the tongue and confessing truth and not aligning with, woe is me, my life is over now. I mean, I would like speak, I'm healed. I'm going to be okay. Like, I'm going to have a full life. And then I used vision too, actually. I would imagine myself running on the beach. I always would go back to that space of like, I'm running on the beach, because MS will take you down. It'll like cripple you and it'll make you unable to actually function. So I'm a huge believer in words of affirmation, words of truth in the face of death, basically life in the face of death. And for me, MS was like death. So yeah, I mean, I just engaged with somebody and said, like, it's almost felt like we graduated to the point of, okay, we've got the beliefs down, we need to start speaking them now. I think there's like a physical thing, a physiological thing when you speak the truth versus just believing it, that happens. Speak to us, Hayden. Now your turn. What do you think? Do you do it?
Do I do it? I I manage my thinking nearly every moment of every day towards what I want or the outcome I want or who I want to be, or so yeah, I'm very much, I am of the view that manifestation isn't something to believe in. It's something that's happening all the time, something that we can be responsible for and master. which relates to positive thinking. If you're focused on what you want, that is what you'll move towards. If you focus on what you don't want, that is what you're going to manifest. And I've seen it in my practice with depressed and anxious people. Depressed people focus on, there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with the world, it's never going to work. And that's their repetitive thinking. And guess what happens to their life and their experience of life? Anxious people focus on, what if it goes wrong? What I don't want to happen? And they're so in that thinking, they manifest all the fear and they avoid taking action. They never develop the abilities to confront what they're afraid of. So I do agree with managing our thoughts. I don't really like the terms positive and negative thinking. I don't think they give people enough information to actually take actionable steps on them. So I don't like those terms. I think when people think positive thinking, they think, well, I shouldn't have any negative thoughts, and that's not going to happen. And they think, I need to remove all negative thoughts, and that's not the case either. So it's I'd say it's more about managing your thinking and focusing on what you want, who you want to be, the future, not the past, not what you don't want, not what's wrong with you, not that you're not good enough or not worthy. And with affirmations, what I found is what works extremely well is if you imagine you have a room full of clutter and you come along with a positive affirmation and you try to jam it in that room that's already full, it ain't going to work. So very much addressing all the negative stuff that's in there and clearing it out first, allow those affirmations to come in with ease. And that's totally missed in the conversation about affirmations. Is it's not about ignoring the negative, it's about dealing with it powerfully so it's gone, so there's space for the positivity, for the optimism, for the affirmations to live within you. And that conversation's just never had. People just go, oh, you just need to think positive. It's like, yeah, well, if I didn't think I was this worthless piece of shit, maybe I would have some positive thoughts, So
Wow. So how do you do that in your practice? Like, okay,
how do I do that?
yeah, like, and even that could be along the lines of my dad told me that I will never make it to be anybody, which is absolutely opposite of my life. But like, you have that in your practices. And so how do you deal with it? Like I heard, and I don't even know if that's how they would like address, like bring it to you.
Oh yeah, it comes up. We pull up all the nasty stuff. My goal is to get people complete from their past, that there's nothing there about it, and then they're free to be who they really are and design their future. The way I deal with that, there's a few things. That specific moment you're talking about, where if they bring that up, what I do is remove them from the perspective of who they were when it happened, because often they're reliving the memory, and I get them to go back in their mind as the person they are today and deal with that whole situation. I get them to walk in and look at their younger self, identify what that younger self needs, give it to them, see how they are, see what they need next, go through that process until that younger self has everything they need, they're complete, they're whole. Then we let them go. We let them go live their life. And that completes that part of their past. And with it gone, there's this space for, well, who are you now? What are the lessons learned? And they can really start to see themselves clearly instead of reviewing the world from their past decisions, past mindset. That works really well for letting the past go, I've found.
That's so fascinating to me because that's so spiritual. Sans Jesus. I mean, like that's what happens in spiritual arenas, like with my friends that do spiritual heart healing and healed, saved, delivered, sozo type healings. Like you go into the past, and they always, and I kind of dismissed it because I was like, first of all, I don't like going into my past, and I don't need to imagine what love would have said, right? I just said Jesus, but I'm going to say love right now, right? So what is love? What would love have done in this situation? So it's always like, where is Jesus? Where is Jesus? And like, he's there when in this like horrible scenario. Well, until a time came for one of these memories for me, I always, because I'm a very visual, I used to be a painter and stuff. Until this moment, I would go to these people, these mindset coaches, and I would bring this memory up all the time, all the time. and I don't even know if I should say this memory, but because it's not like a trauma memory, but I would bring it up because it was like, are you going to help me deal with it? Are you going to help me deal with it? Are you going to help me deal with it? Are you going to help me deal with it? And then there was like this season when I started coaching where that memory kept coming back. And I kept thinking, if I'm going to be a coach, I got to know about the mind. If I'm going to be a coach, I got to know about the heart. I've got to know about those things. This is like the end of last year. And then my friend does heart healing. And I went to her and I was like, oh, I'm ready to do your heart healing now. And the first thing she said to me was one of the beliefs that I deal with, like opening up, not even me telling her, here's a belief I have. She's like, I heard this before I did the call, because she's in prayer about our call. And I was like, oh my gosh, I deal with that. Oh my gosh, I can't get rid of that. This is amazing. Just calling it out, right? Just identifying the marker that's holding you back. There's power in identity. The truth sets us free.
In your case, the what held you back was the ability to open up. You weren't able to open up.
That was a self-hatred,
Okay.
self-loathing. I have dealt with perfectionism and workaholism. Like, those are my vices, and those are the vices that many leaders deal with. And they're not shunned in our culture. It's not a bad thing. So you would maybe have an addiction to work, and nobody realizes that's actually a negative place to be. And that some of the reasons for that addiction are because you have a father or mother wound and you're trying to gain your affirmation from your work. And those are all rooted in self-loathing for me. So I'm in this session with this heart healer, and I bring her the memory. I bring her the memory that I brought every single person. And at this point, I'm like, maybe it's the right timing. And she does what they all do in the Christian church, like in that arena. Where's Jesus in the memory? And I'm like, well, I'm in the back of the car in this memory, so he's next to me, and I'm a little like, whatever, Jesus is in the picture. And so, but you like imagine it. Yeah, it's like when the formula, it feels disingenuous. Ultimately, is like, I'm gonna keep bringing it up and we'll figure out where Jesus is in this picture.
You know something that would have hindered you?
Would have ended me.
No, hindered you. Do you want to know something that would have hindered you?
What?
You were going in with I know.
Right. Yeah. So, but I knew that it was like a setup. And when she had self-loathing, like the first comment she made to me was self-loathing, that brings you more into humility, because now, like, somebody knows something that is a secret or is a deeper space that she shouldn't have known. We don't know each other that well, and or that sin or what, like that block isn't obvious.
So the secret coming out is healing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so I got healed in that session because Jesus reached out and grabbed my arm, like grabbed my hand, and then like tears flowed from my eyeballs. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I knew I was being healed of that memory. And that memory was not trauma. It was me making a vow. It was me making a vow that I was going to be okay no matter what, because there was something that was off in my childhood and it wasn't okay. But I was like, I'm gonna be okay no matter what. And it was like, that was like the moment where I put a stake in the ground that I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to do it like a champion, and it's all on me. Like, I am doing it. And I feel like our culture, and I mean, I know that y'all are in another area, but like the Western culture is very like, pull up your bootstraps and make it happen, So I'd be interested, Haydn, to hear your perspective of self-loathing that you deal with, because to me, you're in the spiritual space. That's like a very dark space for any client to feel.
Yeah, I get it. I hated myself up until the start of this year.
Up until the start of this year, is that what you said?
Yeah, the start of this year, I discovered I hate myself. It was getting in the way of me loving myself. People would say, how do you love yourself, Hayden? I'd be like, oh, what are you talking about? Oh, get away from me. What does that even mean? And then at the start of the year, I discovered I hate myself. Just this thought that runs through my head. I was like, oh, got it. I still hate myself. Maybe that's why I have a hard time loving myself. Yeah, and then I chose, you know what? I'm not going to listen to that thought anymore. And it got pretty easy to love myself and love my life.
Wow.
Amazing.
So yeah, it totally happens. It's not that uncommon either.
Wow, these stories are so powerful. Thank you guys for being so authentic about your journey, and I think that's what makes you such great coaches because you both had tremendous shifts in identity, right? Whether it's your teenage years and early young years, Hayden, or Jenny with MS, a very serious disease. Do you think that's what woke you up? Do you think without that you wouldn't have made, or in another sense, does it take something dramatic?
The pain is the source of my power for sure. Still to this day.
Do you think everyone needs that? Do you think if like people are too comfortable or they don't have big pain in their lives, they can't make that transition?
I don't know. What I have heard, and I know Gandhi said this, was that he's never met a strong person with an easy past. So I think there is some wisdom in that, that we are creatures of conditioning. Life's easy. We're conditioned for easiness. Everything's going to seem challenging. And if we've been through a whole lot of shit, we probably have a broader, larger perspective and things seem much easier. So there's probably an element of truth that you need to go through things if you want to have some resilience and strength and perspective. Definitely, I would agree with that. But I don't know if that's the only case. That's all I'm saying.
My theory on that is that if we have an easy life or comfortable life, then yes, like we get stuck. But my theory is that by not staying in the comfort zone, by daring things, we are bound to fail. So even if we had a good life, we didn't have trauma or other things that happened to us, we can have a good life, but then eventually we start daring, we start doing like chasing big goals, and in the process we fail, and those failures push us out of our comfort zone, and we kind of create our own difficult path which allows us to grow. That is my theory on it.
Yeah, cool. I can see that.
Yeah, life is like so racked with challenge and growth and change and transformation. And if we don't have a healthy perspective of the reality that life is going to change, every time it changes, it's like you get hit by something, like my daughter's 11, like she's about to be like into the middle school years. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm about to enter into a new arena, like it's like these constant things of life that like are change are make you have to change. And it's always pain. It's like change is painful. Like if we're creatures of comfort, like change is not something that we welcome and we're like, yay, let's go change, but it's necessary. And so we have to gain the resiliency in our minds to be able to confront and to address and to embrace the change and not be hindered from that.
Someone listening to our conversation here, they've been going after a goal, they've been trying to achieve something, it's just not working out for them. They either fall into old patterns or they can't figure it out, but at the same time they're not ready to take money from their savings, even just opening up to a mindset coach like you. What are your words of encouragement for someone who is in that situation? They know they need to change something, but they're not ready to open up.
Good luck. Good luck. If you want to live this life on your own, good luck. Humans aren't individuals. We're a group. There is no self-discovery on your own. You only do it when you're with other people. That's going to be a painful. That's going to be a painful journey for them. That's that. Yeah, yeah. Take the leap.
So you're saying take the leap, right? That's what it boils down to.
Well, it's humility too. I think that we will lean toward pride and self sufficiency and pull up your bootstraps, like make it happen. And when you live that way and you don't live in community and you don't live with mentorship or you don't live with a coach or you don't live in humility and know that there's actually a level of vulnerability that's required of us to truly become who we want to be. I think pride and shame kind of go hand in hand, actually. So if you're like, I got this thing and I got it by myself, like it's likely that that's because there's a wound there and you have created an ecosystem of mistrust and you don't know that like a coach can actually love you and actually help you and help you get to the place where you need to go. So it's like the wounding and the healings of people. The wounds are what make me say I'm a spiritual and life coach, because when there's wounds there, that's where the breeding ground for like dysfunction happens, really. It's like negative negative action, negative patterns can breed dysfunction, but like wounds also breed dysfunction because then we don't come into like proper thinking when like mom or dad or brother or whoever it was that's telling you like you're worthless, you're worthless, you're worthless, and you like are allowing that script in your head. I think people have to be healed. I really do. That's why I so heavily look at faith incorporated into my mindset coaching, is that like you're not alone on a spiritual level. So if we just talked physical. You physically need a friend. You physically need a family. You physically need support. You maybe need a coach. You maybe need a mentor. But like in the spiritual arena, like I also think you're not alone. You're not alone, and God actually is for you. And God, like there is a God, and He loves you. And oh, you're not a mistake. You're a masterpiece. Do you know you're a masterpiece? Oh, let me tell you why you're a masterpiece. Let me tell you that what I saw when before our session about you and who you really are as a weapon for truth. So I don't know, like for me, it's the more I delve into, I mean, I'm a year in, Hayden, you've been doing this for like a decade or whatever, but I'm a year into coaching, and I'm like, foundation is identity. Foundation is truth and healing. Like people need to be healed. Even that your shower experience for me is like a moment of healing. You know, like that was a moment where you realize like you have value and you have people love you. There's love. There's purpose.
I realized in that moment, I don't know if I realized people love me or that I had value. What I actually thought in that moment is, what if I'm wrong and they're right? What if I have this potential they tell me I have? What if I am? Mum said, she used to say over and over, "You're a good boy. You've always been a good boy." But I had in my head swirling around, I'm such a worthless piece of shit. So I'd reject it. In that moment, maybe the emotion of it, the intensity, it was such a strange moment. It shocked my system. I actually let that possibility in that maybe I'm a good boy, and that was it. That was enough. As soon as that had seeded in my mind, that was it. I couldn't let it go. Yeah, the value and the love came later. The love came when I had a girlfriend, and she stayed with me for 2.5 years. And I thought she was crazy, and I was either I was breaking down or she was crying, snot. And I got in that moment, wow, she loves me. I'm actually lovable. The value came later when a manager hired me to be his right hand man, and I was managing this pub, one of the most violent pubs in the state. 20 employees, 7 security guard, 150 patrons, fights. I was like, oh, I can do something. I can be of value in society. That came much later. That was years later, maybe 6 years later. That started to sink in.
Wow, the humility to entertain the idea that others may be right, like others who see a better version of ourselves, or in that case of you.
Yes,
Interesting or powerful how that was the first shift, and then love, and then value.
came later. Yeah.
Hayden, Jenny, I thank you so much for showing up here today, sharing your stories, being so authentic about your journey. I learned a lot from you guys, especially my biggest takeaway is, healing the wounds, as Jenny you said, and Hayden as you said, getting the clutter out of the room. We can't just we can't just slap some positive thinking makeup on top of the mess, right?
No.
We gotta clear clear the skin first underneath.
Dig out the dirt. The gold's in there. You got to dig out the dirt.
Yeah, very, very, very powerful to and important to learn that from you guys. Thank you so much. Hayden, which links can I put below this episode for people to reach out to you and start even just, talking to you?
Yeah, find me on TikTok. I'll throw my website up there as well. LinkedIn, you'll find that on my website too. So I'll put my website, LinkedIn, and TikTok.
All right, so watch Hayden on TikTok, please. He makes great videos on mindset and elaborates more on this topic. And I'll put your website and your LinkedIn as well. If you want to talk to Hayden or have a follow-up question or a comment on all of this, write him on LinkedIn. And Jenny, what about you?
Yeah, so I have a pretty solid presence on Facebook and LinkedIn, and then I'm starting a new business venture for leaders called Dynamis Leadership. I'm giving away a book called From Unfulfilled to Unstoppable. So that's going to be on my website. I'll probably put a link on my other social media platforms as well, but those are all places you can find me.
Okay, awesome. So if you want a copy of Jenny's book, go to her website. I'll put the link in the episode below as well. And if you have a comment, a question, or just want to talk to Jenny, click the link to her Facebook profile. Jenny, Hayden, thank you again so much for coming here today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.